Sorry.
Go ahead.
Good evening and welcome. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live and recorded by WRPS for playback on Comcast Channel 14 and Verizon Channel 31. It is also available live online at www.wrpsrockland.com/TV and within 24 hours via video on demand at www.youtube.com/WRPSRockland. Please go to www.wrpsrockland.com for further information. Larry, could you read us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Love to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Larry. First on the agenda, community announcements, healthcare worker of the week.
Hi, Mike. Thank you. So we actually don't have a healthcare worker of the week to announce tonight. We hope to for our next meeting in 2 weeks. And I don't have any other community announcements tonight.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, open session minutes of November 17, 2020. I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the open session minutes from November 17th, 2020.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
and myself. I should note that that both Selectman Penny and Vice Chairman Nyman are not available tonight. Both had work issues come up, and they'll be with us at our next meeting. Next on the agenda, under new business, it's a 7:20 public hearing, but seeing as it's only 7:05, I'm going to skip it, and we'll go to old business. Doug, 2021 new license and renewals continued. New license for Family Pizza and Roast Beef, 440 Union Street.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So it's pretty self-explanatory. We're just having you guys knock off all the various license renewals and the new license for Family Pizza and Roast Beef located at 440 Union. The usual deal, approved pending all obligations have been met. So we recommend all these.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, I will make said motion.
I will second it.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
and myself. That's unanimous. Okay, next on the agenda, FY22 budget update. Doug.
Thank you, Mike. I just shared my screen. Hopefully you can all see that. I'm going to keep this quick tonight. I just thought it would be helpful to give a little bit more detail of what I was trying to discuss at our last meeting, because I'm not sure that I was really clear enough in some of the numbers that I was referencing. And I just think this will be a helpful kind of guide for where Biz and I both feel that our numbers are at. And I want to highlight also that we've been careful to make sure we're on the same page with the school department. Biz and I have already met with Dr. Crown and Jane Hackett about this. So we're all on the same page. I'm going to go to the next slide. So some of the overall issues are that, we must, prevent the use of using one-time funds again to help balance the budget. This was something that we had to do in FY21 because we were in a real pinch due to the unexpected nature of COVID and the impact of that on the budget. But that's not something that's sustainable. We always want to prevent furloughs and layoffs, so that's obviously going to continue going forward. We want to do everything we can to prevent any furloughs and layoffs. We think it's going to be prudent to assume level funded state aid, and by level funded we mean the most recent numbers that we received from the state, not what we originally projected last spring, but our most recent higher number. We think it should be reasonable to predict level funded state aid going into next year. Given all that, however, we're looking at a roughly $1.9 million combined operating budget deficit, which I'll show you in a minute. And then on top of that, we have health insurance increases, retirement increases, and debt increases that all exceed 2.5%, which we're going to have to absorb as well. So these numbers on the next page should all be familiar to everyone. This is for FY21, and So the first number in the upper right-hand corner is that $2.8 million. That was the initial projected revenue deficit that we had last spring. And then, as I was just referencing a moment ago about one-time sources of revenue, one of the ways that we were forced to take dramatic action to close the projected budget deficit was to use over $917,000 of one-time sources of revenue. Most of it from the stabilization fund, but then also from overlay surplus, dog fund, OPEB fund, and free cash. So we used over $900,000 from one-time revenues to balance the budget. Then in addition to that, the school department had to cut over $1.4 million from their budget, and the town cut over $524,000 from our budget. So that all that combined was how we were able to balance FY21. So then we had this most recent special town meeting just a couple of weeks ago in November, and I thought it'd be helpful to highlight that what we did when we received the notification of that increased state aid, that extra $985,000, is we restored that amount in cuts. So we weren't able to restore all our cuts, but we restored, a lot of cuts from both the school side and the town side. So that's how that increased state aid above what we initially projected was used. So now going into next year, and this is what I was trying to explain last meeting, but I think it's just more clear with numbers on a piece of paper. The way that we're looking at this is, we assume level funded state aid, that $985,000 should be able to help us prevent the use of one-time revenues again, help us prevent having to try to take that $917,000 out of one-time revenues to balance the budget. But what that's obviously going to do is leave us with that $1.9 million of cuts that we had to make last year. And this is all back of the envelope stuff right now, but this is the amount that we're looking at going into the budget, plus all those other items that I spoke to earlier. So I just wanted to be clear that when I talked about going back a slide again, that extra state aid, sort of really helping us close that gap with one-time revenue, there's still the other leg of that three-legged stool are all the cuts that we had to make to our budget. So in conclusion, we're working on revenue projections right now, and we're going to get you a draft budget at your next meeting on December 15th, because per the charter, we need to get you a budget by December 31st that we can forward to the finance committee. So it's going to be rough. It's by no means will be final. We'll have a lot of work to do, but it's going to be a very difficult budget year. And, we can't manage it like we did in FY21, mainly because of those use of one-time revenues. And, it's not just that the Department of Revenue and our auditors don't recommend using one-time sources of revenue to fund the budget. You just simply can't do it because those one-time revenues will run out. They're called one-time for a reason. So they're not recurring, and we can't do that again. So it's going to be a very difficult budget year. But I just wanted to lay it out in a little bit more detail. And Biz is here if you have any other questions that I can't answer, but I hope that's helpful. And I hope that kind of explains the dynamic of the extra state aid versus one-time revenue versus cuts.
Any questions on the FY22, guys?
Yeah, I just have one question, Doug. In terms of, if you go back like 2 slides in, in the numbers, like in how we get to 1.9, with the 1.4, like in the 524, like that assumes, like especially on the school side, that all of the cuts would be restored. Like heading into FY22, is that, do we think that can practically happen at this point?
No, I think what we're saying is, this is again rough.
Yeah, yep.
But what we're saying is, no, like we have a gap of 1.9 million, meaning,
Yes.
we would have to make 1.9 million in cuts to be in balance. Now, there's, we're going to have 2.5%. We're going to have new tax revenue coming in, a little bit of new growth. So there's going to be more revenue coming in, but we also have other expenses that are exceeding 2.5%, like health insurance, like retirement, like debt. So there's a number of things that are going up and down. But so the main point of these numbers was really, I suppose, the combination of these two slides, just to show that this extra state aid was, well, maybe I'll back up even once more. I'll just run through my logic again. This extra state aid was critical because it allowed us this year in FY21 to be able to restore $985,000 worth of cuts, right?
Okay.
And going forward in the next year, this should enable us to not use any one-time revenues, but we'll still have a gap of 1.9 that we're going to have to make up in cuts. That's in general terms what we're trying to say. Does that help?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yes, yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Doug.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. Doug, other old business not reasonably anticipated, anything?
I have none.
Okay. So it's just about 7:15. I think it's close enough at this point that we can move on to the 7:20 public hearing for the assessor's annual classification hearing. Deb, you with us?
I make a motion that we open the hearing.
I have a motion to open.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Larry?
Yes.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes.
And myself. Okay, the hearing is open. Deb, are you there?
I'm here. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. It's good to see you this evening. For those of you at home who may not know me, my name is Deborah Krupchak and I'm the assessor appraiser for the town of Rockland. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Board of Assessors for the annual tax classification hearing. The Board of Assessors was notified by the Department of Revenue on November 25th that the fiscal year 21 assessment classification report, the LA4, was approved. So once the property has been classified, there must be a public hearing at which the assessors present information to the Board of Selectmen, who vote whether to establish different rates or to tax all properties at the same rate by selecting a factor of 1. You all have the packets that I put together. I'm going to share my screen so everyone can follow along. Let's see if I can find it here. Okay, so we're going to go to page 1 here, assess values. So this is the classification of properties. As you can see, 80.6% of the town is classified as residential, and 19.4 is CIP, which is commercial, industrial, and personal property. The full value of the town is $2,326,006,390. And you want to see it a little prettier here on pie chart. So fiscal year 21, we're in an interim revaluation year. So, a couple of years ago, the town went to reval every 5 years. So we won't be up for reval until fiscal year 24. So the purpose of this 21 interim value adjustment, which is kind of like a mini reval, is to estimate fair market value as of the assessment date of 1/1/20. So all cities and towns in Massachusetts use a process called mass appraisal, and we use the PK system. So unlike everyone knows when they have to get their house appraised, you call a fee appraiser. That's not what we do here. We do mass appraisal. So our goal is to bring all property to the full and fair market value, whether sold recently or not. So we achieve full equity among all values. So the assessors analyze qualified sales from the last full calendar year, which is 2019. We perform statistical analysis, including ratio studies, and we adjust values accordingly. So property values can also change because of building permits, growth, sales, and cyclical program inspections. So from fiscal 20 to 21, the value of the town went up about 4.3%. So we're going to move next over to the levy. So the levy is calculated by taking last year's levy limit plus 2.5%, which is the factor for Proposition 2.5. Then our growth of 247,833 for fiscal 21. You get your fiscal 21 levy limit. You add your debt exclusions, and then you come up with your maximum allowable levy, which here is 40,205,765. Our actual estimated tax levy, which we're pretty sure we're right there on the money, is going to be 40,193,390.42. So we're talking about LA5 excess levy capacity about 12,374.58. So if you take your estimated tax levy and you go back, when you think about what we talked about, the value of the town was 2,236,6,390. So divide the estimated levy by the town's valuation, and we get our projected tax rate, which is going to be $17.28, which is down 22 cents from last year. Last year we had a tax rate of $17.50. This year we're talking $17.28. If we go with this, if the board decides to go with a single tax rate of 1 and vote all classes of property the same. So next we're going to go to the average single family assessment. So the average single family home went up from 333,884 to 350,484. So as you see, we got a little decline in the tax rate. We're going up a little bit in the average single family, which is a good thing. Property values are appreciating in Rockland. We have a nice, healthy real estate market out there. And the average tax bill is going to be about $213 more this year. So here we have the impact of a split tax rate. So if we, I don't know if everyone can see this. I'm going to move you over here. So let's go back. So the first page, we have the maximum 50%. We have 1%, 2%, 3%, 4% shift. And then we have a 5%, 10%, 15, and 20. I like to always look at the 20% shift because it demonstrates that really in even, nice round numbers, that in order to save, if to split the rate into a 20% shift, which you would never start out with a 20% shift, you would also, if we ever decided to go to a split rate, we'd probably start much more conservatively. But in order to save the residential class 5%, we'd have to charge the residential, commercial, and personal property people 20% more. So that's the numbers. But as you see here, like on 1%, the tax rate changes very little from residential to commercial at the lowest levels. You really need a healthy shift to make any difference to the residential taxpayer. So as per historically speaking, in the past several years, the assessors are recommending that you stay with the single tax rate this year. So I think that's pretty much it. I think that what the other thing I could do here is I share screen here. All right, Doug, how am I going to go back and share my screen?
You should try to stop sharing at the top and then redo it with the new document.
Oh, I got new share here. Okay. So these are can you all see this? All right. So these are the 3 votes that we need to take tonight. We need to take a vote on the residential exemption, the residential factor, and the small commercial exemption. Does the board have the handout in front of them?
I do not.
I do.
So you have this and you have the suggested motion. So I don't know if
Yes.
I don't know if
I do.
I don't know if you all have any questions or you want to proceed.
So Deb, I think typically the way we do this is I open it up to questions from the board, and then we dissolve the public hearing, and then we make the motions outside of the public hearing.
Okay,
Okay, so I'll open it up.
questions?
Mr. Mullen, Mr. Ryan, any questions?
No, I don't have any. No, I don't have any. Deb, as always, this is a job well done and it makes a whole lot of sense. And I want to thank you and the members of the Board of Assessors, for your work on this.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr.
I
Ryan?
would echo those sentiments, and someday the town will be ready to change, but right now we're not, I don't believe.
Okay, thank you.
Deb, just as the other two members said, we appreciate the hard work that you and your office and the people within the office do, as well as your board. It's always informative. You've always got the numbers. They always make sense, and you explain it well. So for that, I thank you. With that said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, Mr. Ryan,
Yes,
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
and myself. Okay, so the public hearing is dissolved. So with that being said, we still have 3 votes to be taken. The first vote is on the residential exemption. And in this case, I think I'm going to make a motion. I'll make a motion that the town of Rockland does not adopt the residential exemption for fiscal year 2021.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Mr. Ryan,
yes,
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
and myself. The next one is the residential factor, and I'll make a motion on that as well, that the town of Rockland, for the town of Rockland to adopt the residential factor of 1, a single tax rate for fiscal year 2021.
A
I'll
second. Oh, a third.
I got a motion and a second. Mr. Ryan,
yes,
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
and myself. And then the third vote is on the small commercial exemption. I'll make a motion that the town of Rockland does not adopt the small commercial exemption for fiscal year 2021.
second,
Motion is second. Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
yes.
and myself. Okay. Deb, you got it. Everything's, I think we're all set.
Thanks. I want to tell you,
Thanks, Deb.
I want to tell you a couple more things. This year, you're not going to have to sign the LA 5 because it must be due to the pandemic. The DOR is not requiring you to sign that. It's
And we know I'm so good at that, so.
a certification by the clerk is going to be fine. And I just want to say a couple more things to the public. Reminder that the fiscal year 21 actual bills will be mailed prior to December 31st. Once we complete the tax recap process, and the tax rate is set. Abatement applications are due by February 1st. Also, exemption guidelines for qualified seniors, surviving spouses, disabled veterans, and the blind are available on the assessor's page of the town website, and we will accept applications until April 1st, 2021. Please call the assessor's office if you have any questions. And I'd like to publicly thank Town Accountant Elizabeth Zaleski, my co-lead on the recap prep team, and my staff of Christine McPherson and Leslie Donovan for all their help this year. I'd also like to thank the Board of Assessors for their support and all the other department heads and staff at Town Hall for their continued cooperation. It's been one heck of a year. Work's got done as usual, whether we're in the office or at home. And I think you should be very proud of all of the staff members here at Town Hall. They've done a heck of a job. That's it for
Thank you,
me.
Deb. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, next on the agenda. Town Administrator's Report and Correspondence. Doug?
Thanks, Mike. I will keep it quick tonight. Just a few things. The first is, unfortunately, we did not receive the MassWorks grant award that we applied for the Hingham Street improvements off of exit 14 that I'd spoken about earlier. The state informed us it was a very competitive grant round, so they were not able to fund a number of applications. But we will be seeking feedback from the state to see if there's anything we can do to improve that particular application in the future if we want to resubmit it. So I wanted to give you that piece of bad news. But some good news, I'm very pleased to announce that the town is receiving a $112,000 community compact IT grant, which we're going to be using to pursue new online permitting technology, online permitting software, so that folks will be able to apply for whether it's, building permits, fire permits, a whole variety of different types of permitting fully online through our website. And in particular, I want to thank our IT director, Gino, because he did this, he got this done, and it's an excellent accomplishment, and it's a large grant award for this. So we're very pleased. So we're going to get this done, and so that's one piece of good news on the grant front. Related to grants, I think I mentioned earlier that Biz helped secure, I'm calling it a grant, they don't technically call it that, but a grant from the Department of Revenue to help the town develop new financial policies. So we're in the process with our whole financial team, working with the Department of Revenue. We actually have a Zoom meeting with the DOR tomorrow where we're going to continue working on this. Once we get things fleshed out a little bit more and have some drafts done, we're obviously going to follow up with the Board of Selectmen and with the Finance Committee as well. But this is really an excellent project, and I want to thank Biz for initiating and coordinating this. As far as projects go, the library windows project that we have funded through the Community Preservation Act, our bids will be due tomorrow, which is Wednesday, December 2nd. So I do anticipate getting quite a few bids on this. We've had a lot of interest in this project. So we should have no problem getting this project completed. And then lastly, we're in the final phases of having the McKinley sprinklers project done. The contractor's working as we speak, and that project should be fully completed by the end of this month. The one thing that I did just want to highlight, however, is that it's becoming apparent as they're doing their work that other unrelated work really does need to be done in this building. And we're making adjustments in different classrooms to make sure that we're keeping children and everybody safe. But we're doing a little bit more investigation. And so we'll have more information to follow soon. But I guess my main point is just to highlight that we're going to need to talk, with you about whether we should, invest new funds in this building or not. And I think we're going to need to have these discussions much sooner than later. So I just wanted to highlight that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Doug. Selectmen's comments. Comments and opinions expressed by individual members do not necessarily reflect the views of the Board of Selectmen and are the opinions and comments of only the individual member. Mr. Mullen.
I don't have anything tonight, but thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Deb.
Thanks, Mike. Mr. Ryan.
I'm going to echo that, and I just want to thank all the people in the town hall that are doing their job every day. Thanks for hanging tough. Thanks for putting up with all the changes that are going on, and thanks for doing a great job. All of you, top to bottom.
Thank you, Larry. So I don't really have any comments. More house cleaning for the board itself. Doug, could you do me a favor? Could you ask Stacy Callahan if she could send us your goals, and actually, if you could put together your results on your goals and objectives that we did for you for last year, and then any other things, materials that might be associated to the review process, and then have Stacy forward to each of the members of the board a copy of the review itself, because we are on the clock for that. I think we have per contract, I think by January 7th, we have to get that in. So if we could start that process now.
Will do.
Thank you, Doug. And with that, I have no further comments. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
A motion to adjourn.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, I raised my hand, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Amazing. You've come a long way technology-wise. Larry, you too, obviously. A long way from duct tape. So with that, I have a motion and a second. Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Mullin,
Yes.
and myself. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you, everybody.